Did the world's most famous antivirus pioneer take a life? John McAfee's story is the wild tale of a genius inventor turned paranoid fugitive, of brilliant schemes and uncontrollable impulses, of fortunes won and lost. He became a household name, protecting the world from digital chaos. But nothing could protect John McAfee from the inescapable threat that lived inside him. His death in a Spanish prison cell added yet another question mark to a long list of troubling mysteries. How does a multi-millionaire become one of the most wanted men on Earth? What caused his descent into the grips of madness? Could John McAfee have done the unthinkable? If you believe you know the John McAfee story, you'll want to stay tuned. The truth is almost too bizarre to be believed. Trouble shadowed John McAfee from the day he was born. Growing up in Virginia, John lived in constant fear of his violent, alcoholic father. When the boy was just 15, his father surrendered to his demons and took his own life. The reign of terror was over, but his abuse and violent end would haunt McAfee forever. Despite his troubled start, the young McAfee showed true promise. He earned a degree in mathematics and joined NASA at the height of the space race, working as a programmer on the Apollo missions. McAfee was brilliant. He was also restless. Colleagues found him charismatic but volatile. Over the next decade, he bounced from job to job to job. Univac, Xerox, Lockheed Martin. Then, in 1986, came the flash of insight that changed McAfee's life. His name was about to become synonymous with an industry that was set to print money. Yet no one could have guessed what would happen next. While working at Lockheed, McAfee learned about the brain virus, the first computer virus to attack IBM PCs. Most people saw it as an annoying prank. For him, it was nothing less than the harbinger of a plague that would soon spread to every computer in the world. He understood the threat, and he recognized a massive opportunity. From the spare bedroom of his home in Santa Clara, he founded McAfee Associates and built VirusScan, the first commercial antivirus software. His business strategy was risky but calculated. McAfee would give the software away for free to individual users, then sell licenses and support to businesses. And to make sure they wanted those licenses, McAfee the showman fueled demand by stoking fear. When the Michelangelo virus panic swept the world in the early 90s, McAfee was everywhere. On TV, in magazines, warning of doomsday. This was McAfee's masterstroke, and it was wildly successful. Powered by his potent combination of business acumen and marketing genius, McAfee's product quickly became the must-have security shield for millions. Sadly, not even his world-beating software could protect McAfee from his greatest threat. By 1994, the McAfee company was worth billions. John was set for life. Maybe now the little boy who feared his father's violent temper could tame his own demons and enjoy a peaceful life. But peace and stability weren't on the cards for John McAfee. In 1994, he made a baffling decision that shocked the tech world. McAfee walked from the company he'd built, just as he'd walked away from job after job after job, selling his stake for $100 million. Years later, as McAfee's life unraveled, he would declare war on the very software that bore his name, calling it bloatware, and even releasing a bizarre, profanity-laced video showing how to uninstall it. It was all par for the course for McAfee. Did he revel in these flamboyant gestures, or was he at their mercy? Over the next 2 decades, the answer to that question would come into sharp focus. With a 9-figure fortune to play with, John McAfee was free to chase any idea that popped into his head. He built a yoga retreat in Colorado. He wrote books on spirituality. He started a company to promote aerotrekking, flying low in ultralight aircraft over desert landscapes. Amid startups and lawsuits and tangent after tangent, McAfee seemed to be on a frenzied search for another great success. Then came the financial crash of 2008. McAfee's investments were crushed, wiping out his fortune. So McAfee did what he always did in these situations. He cut and ran. He sold off his possessions and fled to Belize, looking for a fresh start in a tropical paradise. Instead, he descended into a world that felt more like a fever dream. On the island of Ambergris Caye, he built a compound patrolled by armed guards and guarded by packs of dogs. He hired a personal militia and surrounded himself with a rotating cast of girlfriends. He said he was developing herbal antibiotics, but locals whispered about drugs, weapons, and worse. McAfee's paranoia began to consume him. He claimed government agents and drug cartels were plotting to kill him. Visitors reported he was experimenting with powerful psychedelics, spiraling deeper into fear and suspicion. His idyllic hideaway had mutated into a nightmarish fortress where John McAfee crowned himself a king. But this Mad King's reign was about to crumble. McAfee's paranoia would soon turn him from eccentric millionaire into an international fugitive. Think this story is wild? It's only just getting started. Hit that subscribe button and get ready to join the manhunt. By 2012, McAfee's life was spiraling out of control. Then it turned deadly. Neighbors in Belize complained about McAfee's compound, the menacing guards and the aggressive dogs. Tensions were rising. One neighbor, Gregory Fall, took their complaints to the local mayor. 2 days later, Fall was found dead. McAfee would later imply that Fall had poisoned his dogs the police said had been shot. The cops quickly named McAfee a person of interest that they planned to question. McAfee bolted. He claimed that the authorities wanted him dead. But while any other fugitive would try to lie low, McAfee turned his escapades into high-profile drama. He live-blogged the whole thing as he lurched from hideout to hideout, sharing wild tales of how he escaped by disguising himself as a drunk German tourist and burying himself in sand with only a cardboard box to breathe through. He even invited a Vice magazine writer along for the ride. That was a big mistake. The Vice journalist uploaded a photo with location data still attached, revealing McAfee's exact whereabouts in Guatemala. When he was finally arrested, McAfee ratcheted up his desperate theatrics, faking 2 heart attacks in his cell, causing an international media storm. Incredibly, luck was still on his side. Instead of deporting him back to Belize, Guatemalan officials put him on a plane to Miami. He was never charged with Fall's murder, though a U.S. court later ordered him to pay $25 million in a wrongful death lawsuit. McAfee had escaped again, and now he was infamous. If McAfee sensed that he was running out of luck, he showed few signs. Back in the US, he exploited his newfound notoriety. In 2016, he ran for president under the Libertarian Party banner, calling for the end of government surveillance, the decriminalization of drugs, and financial freedom through cryptocurrency. He ran again in 2020, this time from a yacht, claiming he was in exile because the IRS was hunting him. It was clear, however, that the campaigns were never about winning. McAfee treated politics like performance art. As the crypto boom exploded, McAfee found new ways to keep the money flowing. With a single tweet, he could send the price of obscure altcoins skyrocketing. Prosecutors later alleged this was part of a pump and dump scheme that made him and his team over $13 million. He also promoted crypto startups for undisclosed fees, reported to be worth millions. Another violation of securities law. Did McAfee feel bad about fleecing suckers? Not a bit. As the millions poured into his accounts, McAfee proudly bragged that he hadn't paid U.S. income taxes in years, framing it as a moral stand against a corrupt system. The system was about to bring the curtain down on the John McAfee Show, but not before McAfee made one last curtain call. In October 2020, McAfee was arrested in Barcelona on U.S. tax evasion charges. What followed over the next 9 months was pure McAfee. Predictable, but still shocking. At first, McAfee tweeted defiantly from prison via his wife, calling prison an adventure. But his tone darkened with time. At 75, he faced the possibility of spending the rest of his life behind bars. McAfee seemed to sense that he was running out of runway. "I have nothing, yet I regret nothing," he declared. The end would come quickly. In June 2021, a Spanish court approved his extradition to the United States. Just hours later, John McAfee was found dead in his cell. The official ruling was suicide. And that might have been the end of the John McAfee story. But for a man who built his legacy on conspiracies and spectacle, death was just one more plot twist. He had repeatedly insisted he would never kill himself. In 2019, he even tattooed "dollar whacked" on his arm. To this day, his widow insists he was murdered. So who was John McAfee? A misunderstood genius who pioneered the multi-billion-dollar cybersecurity industry, a self-destructive con man who burned down everything he ever touched, or just a troubled human being fated to live an extraordinary but chaotic life.